How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Good. We got a nice small group here. What's that?
Interaction.
I got interaction. I got people back and forth. This is going to be a great session. I'm really looking forward to it. Welcome everybody. Day's almost over, so I'm the only thing standing between you and happy hour. Is that right? All right. Well, I'll do my best. No promises. So thanks for coming today. My name is Mark Tepper. I'm with a company called HomeFinder.com. Show of hands, how many people here before have heard of HomeFinder.com? Yes, all right, presentation over, we're good to go. That's great, so HomeFinder.com, I'm going to talk today about what we call debunking the myth, SEO versus social media. Okay? I'm sure everybody knows what social media is. We talked about Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. But just curious, just so I've got a way to level set the crew here, how many people by show of hands know what SEO is? Oh, a decent amount. Okay, good. Great. So you guys can get up here and do the presentation. I'll just sit down and relax. So a little bit as we get started here, who is HomeFinder.com? It sounds like a number of you have heard who we are. Just to tell you, HomeFinder.com is a national website, very similar to Realtor.com, Trulia, Zillow, all those guys. We've been around as a brand, HomeFinder.com, for 2 years. Some of you may know us because we previously used to power the search for Newsday. So when you used to go to Newsday.com and you go to real estate, we would be the ones that would power the search that would be powered by HomeFinder. When they got sold to Cablevision, and then that relationship ended. But that's how you may know us previously. HomeFinder.com is about 3.5 million homes for sale on our site, and we've got about 3 million, well, 2.5 million monthly visits in 2011, but it's actually up to the most recent month over 3 million. We've actually had about 85% growth in traffic to our website year over year, which is really good. So we're growing fast, and actually from ComScore's perspective, they said we're one of the fastest growing sites. We are also part of a family of companies. I'm sure you've heard of Cars.com, Apartments.com, Career Builder. We're all housed in the same building. We have all the same owners, ship structure, so we get a lot of teachings and learnings from those guys as well, so it's a nice relationship. But enough about me. I just wanted to make sure you knew who we were. Today, we're going to talk about, make it pretty clear to you, we're going to do, one of the things that we've noticed is that as a realtor, you've got a really busy job, right? You've got to sell homes, you've got to get more listings, and you've got to build your brand in order to get more listings, right? That's a lot of things to do in a very short period of time when you're one person. And those are sort of conflicting priorities. So it's something we're going to go over and teach you some ideas about how you can wrap all those things into one way of doing business. Number two, defining SEO and social media. Obviously, it seems like a decent amount of you here know what SEO is and social media. But we'll get into a little bit of the nitty gritty. I'm not going to be too techy, and if I am, certainly throw something at me and tell me, let's make this more clear. And then lastly, let's determine what tactic works for you. What type of marketing makes sense for you to achieve all these goals. Okay. So what are your challenges? So number one, keeping sellers happy. Right? Has this ever been an issue for you? No. Not easy, right? Somebody said no?
Never.
Never. Keeping sellers happy. I travel all around the country. I'm based in Chicago, but I travel all around the country and ask realtors a very simple question. Why is it that you spend any amount of money on marketing? And the majority of the time, they'll say two things. One, they'll say, is to get more leads so I can get more listings. But the other thing they say, which is more than the majority of the time, I'm just doing this to keep my sellers happy. Right? They're on my case. They think the price that I've put for their home is too low. So getting them to buy into that is something difficult. So that's a big priority. We understand that. When you talk about keeping sellers happy, listings are staying on the market obviously a lot longer, and there's a lot of downward pressure on that price. So what can you do to continue to keep sellers happy when there is all this downward pressure on price? And obviously you're the one that's got to deliver that bad news that, hey, you know what? The reason why your home is not selling is because it's too high. So brand building, right? You are a brand. You are a business as an individual, as an independent contractor. Obviously, if you work for some bigger firms, they help you build your brand with all the tools that they provide. But at the end of the day, it's you who's out there trying to get more listings, working as a buyer's agent, trying to sell more homes, right? So at the end of the day, you've got to find a way to help build your brand so that people recognize you and people will come to you and make your life that much easier as opposed to you having to fight real hard to get listings. So building a brand to win more listings is important. And obviously you've got to win more listings because the sales cycle, as we're seeing, is just longer than it used to be. So, in the heyday when things were great and unrealistic, you were selling homes quickly in a month or 2 months, but as we're hearing in this market and other markets, it's taking a lot longer to sell a home. So how do you choose between these conflicting priorities? It's not easy, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So priority number one, keeping sellers happy. Okay, how do we do that? Aside from baking cookies and doing open houses for them every weekend, there's some other strategies. So the marketing that you do as an agent, it's got to make sense to the sellers, right? If the sellers don't buy into it, if the sellers don't think that it makes sense, it's going to be difficult, right? So what I always recommend to folks is when you're talking to your actual seller about their home, talk to them exactly about what you're going to do from a marketing perspective. Get them to buy into it. And the whole buy into it is really important because when the day comes when you have to come back to them and say, you know what, looks like we're going to have to lower the price of this home because it's not selling, at least they say, well, okay, I understand. I see all the stuff that you've done for me from a marketing perspective, so I get it. I understand that if we really want to sell this, we're going to have to lower the price. And then the other thing is, wouldn't it be great if the investments that you make in marketing not only are helping keep the sellers happy, but are building your brand at the same time, right? So sort of a duality there. Let me help my sellers, let me help sell a home, but in doing so, let me help build my brand so people know more about me, so the next time somebody thinks about selling a home, they come to me first. Okay? So building your brand. So there's lots of people out there, a lot of realtors out there. How do you actually separate yourself from the crowd, right? It's not an easy thing to do. We're going to talk a little bit about social media today. I thought this was really interesting. From NAR Home Buyers and Sellers Survey 2010, only 5% of agents use social media sites to market their homes. Surprising. How many people out here, just by a show of hands, use Facebook and social media for business reasons? Oh, great, a lot of you, that's terrific. Obviously, the majority of people out here use it for personal reasons, right? They go to see their family, they go to see their friends, all that kind of stuff. But how many are actually using it for business? And how many are using it to market homes? That's a little bit of a different slant, but according to NAR, only 5% are doing it. So think about the huge opportunity there is, right? So if only 5% of the market is doing it, big opportunity for you to take advantage of that. Also, you need to have a solid SEO strategy. And we'll get into the definition of SEO, but essentially SEO is ranking on the first page of Google, right? For whether it is your website, your blog, whatever it may be, it's important that you actually rank really well, and we're going to talk about search engine optimization and how you can potentially do that. And then lastly, we've thought of a way, we'll get to that in a little bit, but how you can get your customers to help you build your brand, right? When you think about the way that real estate has been done, and over the years, sphere of influence is one of the biggest ways in which when you get into the business, they tell you, the way to start getting listings, the way to start working with buyers is work your sphere of influence, and that totally makes sense. And what happens in working your sphere is that they, your friends, your customers, your ex-customers will recommend you to other people. Well, now we want to try to take this to a different level. So it's not just the cocktail parties, it's not just like the kids' soccer games where you're networking. It's online. How do we do this online where your current customers are going to help build your brand and help recommend you while on Facebook and Twitter and all those kind of things? Okay? So SEO 101. Again, stop me if I'm getting too technical, but I think this makes a lot of sense. So, what is SEO? The actual definition is search engine optimization. Search engine optimization is basically how do I get my website, my blog, whatever it is, to rank on the first page of Google, on Bing, on Yahoo, you name it. How do you make that happen on a regular basis? And it's not an easy task. Google and SEO is an art. It's not really a science. As you know, Google changes their algorithms all the time, and they're really smart people, and they keep redefining what makes a good website and why we should rank one over the other. The way that the search engines work, so the search engines every single day, Google goes out to websites, millions and millions of websites, and they crawl websites. They click on websites, they crawl the websites, they click on links on the websites. They try to understand why your website is valuable, right? Why you should be ranking higher than anybody else, right? That's really, it's a very simple concept. It's not easy to do, and Google's obviously really bright, and they've done a good job with it. But from their estimation, from their algorithm, they decide what's the most important website to be ranked higher than the other website, okay? And that's really what search engine optimization is. Would you all agree free traffic is good? Yes. Not the car traffic, the internet traffic. Free traffic is good, right? So as you can tell here, maybe most of you know this or not, but the green portion there is the organic search, right? That's what Google has determined are the most valuable sites, right? They have said, these guys are not paying us, but because of lots of reasons, we think that these guys, these websites are more relevant than any others. All the yellow around the top and the sides, that's paid search. So that's what they call CPC, cost per click, or buying AdWords through Google, right? And you certainly can do that as a realtor. You've got to monitor it because it can be very cost prohibitive. And depending upon what key search terms you're buying, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. So the goal is to show up #1 within organic search for the most important keyword terms. Okay. Now we'll get into what that means in terms of what are important keywords, and that really depends on where you're marketing, where you're selling homes, where you want to be selling homes. Right. All depends on what's really important to you. Okay. So, what are the most important keywords? Okay, there's a tool on Google AdWords. I would write this down, and you just Google AdWords, and then ask for the keyword tool. Okay, so it's just Google AdWords and keyword tool. And what that tool will allow you to do is understand which are the key search terms that are being most often searched. Okay, and then when you figure out which are the most often searched terms, then you want to optimize your website for those terms. Okay, it's a lot. There's a lot of stuff that I just packed in there, but just suffice it to say this: if you were to go to Google AdWords, the keyword tool, and if you said, let me look at Long Island homes for sale, right? Look at that green bar for competition. It's pretty thick. What that means is there's a lot of competition out there for people trying to optimize for Long Island homes for sale, right? So if you are an individual realtor that has a website, does it make sense for you to optimize for Long Island homes for sale? No, it doesn't, right? Because you're going to be competing against the big dogs, right? You're going to be competing against Realtor.com, Element.com, ColdWealthBanker.com, all the biggest players, HomeFinder.com, right? We're all trying to optimize for the same words. So when you look at this, then you need to start playing around with it. You need to start entering in terms that make sense to you. Do you live in Garden City? Well, Garden City homes for sale. And then on the right-hand side, you can see all the traffic that comes to those different terms on the far right. And you can also see the competition. So obviously, for Garden City homes for sale, there's a lot less competition for that search term, right? So maybe it makes sense for you to optimize for Garden City if that's a market where you sell a lot in, right? So it really comes down to you playing around with the SEO part of it and figuring out what makes the most sense for you. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, good, because that's probably about as technical as I'm going to get. So I was goofing around yesterday on the web and trying to see if there's anybody out there that's doing a good job on Long Island for SEO. And I didn't want to do the big search terms like Garden City because I know who's going to come up and, not surprising. But so what I did was, I live in Chicago now, but I grew up in Comac, and I remember the Hamlet is a great place, and they've got lots of good condos there. So I'm like, let me see, the Hamlet in Comac, let's see who ranks for that and who comes up first. So no surprise, the first two results are Club Corp and ClubCorp.com. I think they're the ones that own the Hamlet, right? So it's most likely them. And then on the third result was Comac Condos, the Hamlet Golf and Country Club, www.houseli.com. Is the person that owns this URL here? Okay, good. I'm not going to make fun of him, but it's a great example. So he comes up, third, which is terrific. So here's what the gentleman has done. What he's done is he said, you know what? I want to focus on one area where I can be successful, right? I want to be the guy that owns the Hamlet, right? When everybody thinks of selling a home or buying a home in the Hamlet, they think of me first, right? So what he did is he optimized his website, houseli.com, so that when people are doing a search for the Hamlet, he's going to come up. Maybe not first, but he's on the first page. One of the interesting statistics I probably should have put in here, but if you look at Google results, you got 10 Google results on a page when you do a Google search. The first one is like the clicks are like 66%, right? The second one's like 25%. The third one's like 10%. The next one's like 4, 3, 2, 1. So you get to the 10th one and it's like 5% maybe. And if you're on the second page, it's like 0.05%. So the bottom line is you got to be on the first page. If you're not on the first page and you're not going to put in the effort to be on the first page, don't even bother. Okay. So I kept looking again, and I said, okay, let me try Hamlet Real Estate. Let's see how good this guy is. Well, this guy's pretty darn good. He's got 3 different websites all about the Hamlet, right? So I did the Hamlet Real Estate in Comac. HouseLI.com, again, came up second. Third was Comac Luxury Homes. If you click on that, it's his website. If you go down to the, what is it, the 5th one, Long Island, CondoLI.com, again, at the Hamlet, right? So I think this guy did a super great job of optimizing his websites so that when somebody does a search for the Hamlet, they're going to find him. Now you can do this in your local market and whatever it is. Maybe it's a town and maybe there's not a lot of search terms on it, or maybe it's a community that you live in, a neighborhood that's got a name to it or something like that. So, you know, this is a great example of somebody, and I don't know exactly all the things he did for SEO, but he obviously did a good job because he's ranking really high. So here's the king of the Hamlet, Gary Bauman. I don't know if anybody knows Gary Bauman. You guys know him? He's not the king? Okay. Online, yeah. Online, he's the king of the Hamlet. Yeah. So he's not the big guy at the Hamlet? Okay. I gave him a crown anyway. See a nice little crown. So, certainly not making fun of Gary. Gary, for all I know, could be a new realtor, and he's just really focusing on that market, and he's really going to focus on being the king of the Hamlet. But you know, when people are searching online and they're adding in those terms, you still want to be the person that comes up, because the percentage of people that go online first to look, you know, where they go first when they start to search for a home. 89%, this is a NAR stat, 89% of people looking to buy a home go to the internet first, right? So this guy's done a great job. He may not be the king of the Hamlet now, but he may be in a year, in 2 years, 3 years. Yes, ma'am?
When someone is looking for something, don't they usually go to the town and put in where their, what their criteria is?
Yeah.
I don't know if they would direct, or sometimes they will go to a Prudential site or a banker's site.
Yep. Yep.
I don't know if this is a first opportunity.
Yeah, so to your point, so as I showed you before, when people were searching for Long Island homes, you see how big the competition was for that and how many search terms were, which is a lot. So you're absolutely right. The biggest key search terms in any market, and you can write these down, is always the town, the state, homes for sale, the town, the state, and real estate. So like Garden City, NY, homes for sale, Garden City, NY, real estate. Those by far are the biggest search terms, okay? My point is that, yes, a lot of people are going to enter that in, but the question you have to ask yourself is, what are you going to do, and can you compete with some of those really, really, really big players out there? So you know that Realtor.com, you know that Homefinder.com, you know Zillow and Truly, they spend a lot of money on trying to rank the highest on that. So the question as an individual realtor that has their own website, can I really compete with these guys? So that's why I was looking at the Hamlet as a very smaller subset of that. And maybe that's a bad example, and maybe there's others out there, but I don't know the market well enough. But there are other opportunities potentially out there where you could rank high for a certain area. Does that make sense? Okay. So my king of the Hamlet, my self-proclaimed Gary Bauman as the king of the Hamlet, may not be the king of the Hamlet, but if you were to search online, you would think he was, right? And perception is reality. Maybe. Right. So quick SEO rules of thumb when you're thinking about SEO. Links from other sites are like gold. And I don't know if Gary's got a bunch of links to his website, but he may. But if you think about this, if you were to get a link, if CNN picked up a blog that you did and they put it on their website and it was linking back to your site, what do you think that would do for you? Right? It'd be like magic, right? All of a sudden, you get this instant credibility from Google because they say, well, a link from CNN is a lot better than a link from marktepper.com, right? So links are really, really, really important. So link building is a really interesting topic, and it's a whole, we can have a whole session on link building through blogging, through tweeting, through you name it. There's a lot of ways you can do it, but try to think about ways in which you can get links back to your site, okay? Now, if you start paying for links, and there are companies out there that would be happy to sell you paid links, if Google finds out about it, they will drop you like a bad habit. They will find out about it, and they will drop it. I've seen it happen. So natural links are the best, and Google looks at this, and it's just like, it's just like you're voting for somebody in an election. you're voting that this content is interesting enough that people have liked it, people have shared it, or they're linked to it, and therefore it's more relevant to them. So as I say in the last bullet here, the best and most foolproof strategy to create great content is to make it really simple, right? Make it really simple for people to spread that content and encourage them to do that. So, that could be blogging, that could be tweeting, who knows what that is, but there's lots of different ways to do it. And lastly, on the SEO topic, so if you're thinking about where am I going to optimize, where should I really focus my energy, and who should I, they all have their own algorithms, like Bing and Yahoo and Google all have their own different algorithms. So there's a little science, there's a little art to doing that for both. Look at the breakout of the concentration on each one of these. So when we looked at ComScore and we looked at who owns the most search traffic, clearly, Google's got 65% of it in August, 66% in September, and the others are, much smaller, although picking up some ground. The Bing network has actually picked up some ground over the last year or so, but Google's the number one. So if you're going to optimize for anything, optimize for how Google thinks, things make sense. Okay. Any questions on SEO before I leave that and go on to social media? Okay. Social media. This is probably second nature to you guys, so stop snoring if you know all this. But where should you be, right? Where should you be with social media? You should be everywhere, right? This is no secret, right? You should be on Google, you should be on Twitter, you should be on YouTube, you should be doing all this stuff. Now I understand that your job is to sell homes. It's not to be tweeting, it's not to be putting posts and shares and likes on Facebook, but it certainly is something that you should do at some point and do it with some regularity, some consistency. So the way I like to think about Facebook and all the social media sites is think of it as a cocktail party. Has anybody ever heard about this sort of analogy before? Think of it as a cocktail party. If I'm at a cocktail party, I'm Mark Tepper, and what's your name, sir?
Tom Levy.
Tom. So I would go up to Tom and say, hey Tom, I'm Mark Tepper, how you doing? I got a home for sale, do you want to buy it? Right? You're not going to do that, right? I'm at a cocktail party, I'm going to say, hey Tom, how you doing? My name is Mark Tepper, right? Where are you from? What do you do? All that kind of stuff. Think about that when you go onto Facebook, right? You want to create you want to create relationships with people, right? And if you're at a cocktail party, you're not going to hammer somebody over the head with, I've got this great listing, you got a home for sale. You're just not going to do that. You're going to build a relationship with somebody. You're going to become friends with this person. So you need to really be professional. You need to maintain sort of a balance of professionalism and friendship and business. You've got to be relevant, so there's plenty of information that your MLS provides you about what's going on in your marketplace. Look for news articles on Newsday and national real estate magazines, and put that on Facebook. Be a resource for people in the marketplace. So when they when they come to think of real estate, they're thinking of you because you constantly put information out there, content out there that is interesting. Okay. And don't overstay your welcome. So is what you're posting to your network, are they going to benefit from it? Don't just say, I just went and got a Starbucks, right? People tweet about that all the time, they put it on Facebook. Who cares, right? Who really cares? And as a professional, you want to be looked at as a professional, so provide professional content, okay? So what should your page have, right? So there should be lots of great information on here, and it needs to be local. It needs to be localized, right? Most of you, when you sell homes, I'm going to make this assumption because I've heard this all over the place, you don't sell, from, Ronkonkoma to Queens, right? That's just too big of an area. There's certain areas where you focus on, right? So provide content to people that's about their local area that you're focusing on. Right? So an example, provide some information if there is anything about Garden City real estate and Comac real estate. Or, something about the teacher in the area that's been there for 30 years and got an award, that kind of thing. So provide some valuable local information. Connections to buyers and sellers. So it's a great place for testimonials. So one of your past clients, get them on Facebook and tell them, hey, could you write me a testimonial? Can you say something good about me on Facebook? I'd really appreciate it. If it's unsolicited, even better. If it's solicited and they just put it on there, that's great too, right? And then also tag past clients. So hopefully, you've done a good job for somebody, and they're willing to, be a friend of yours on Facebook, and then you can tag each other in photos or tag their listings. And then also fun stuff. Obviously Facebook and social media is a fun environment, and make it so. Keep it fun. So I thought this was a pretty good one that somebody in my office came up with. you know, if you're living in Florida, tag posts of friends in the snow and say, when are you moving to sunny Florida, right? You've got tons of people here that relocate to Florida, as my folks did. They got kicked out as soon as they hit a certain age. And general reminders that you're in real estate. I've got, you know, plenty of homes for sale in Florida, whatever it is, right? So really keep it interesting and keep it upbeat. So how often should you be posting, right? I know this is a common question that people have because you're selling homes, right? You're not a social media, you know, person that this is all they do for their career. So you need to utilize it. So, you know, my rule of thumb has always been, and I've talked to other people in social media about this, only need to log in a few times a week. You don't need to do it every single day. You know, a couple times a week, put something interesting on there, some fun fact you found out about, and put it on the Facebook or tweet about it. If you've got a mobile device, you know, I'm sure most of you have smartphones, you know, you can upload, you know, interesting information or a fun picture of a great home for sale you can put up on your site that's got great curb appeal. And always try to comment on other people's posts, especially some of your former clients, if they're on there, you know, or current clients. So the big tip and the big call out here is do it well or don't do it at all, right? People will see if your Facebook page hasn't been updated in 6 months, right? So if you're not going to update it, don't do it, right? Just stay away from it. But if you're going to do it fairly regularly, and I think there's a lot of value to it. And so the last thing about this is that search engines now take social media very seriously. So if there are lots of shares and lots of likes on your website or your blog or whatever it is, well, Google and Bing will look at that and they will say, wow, this blog or this thing must be really important because there's a lot of shares and there are a lot of likes. So they take social media into consideration into their algorithm when they rank certain things for organic search. So it's important, you know, just like with Twitter, that somebody follows you, the etiquette is to follow them back. So in Facebook terms, if somebody, you know, likes something that you have on your site, you know, you should like something on theirs. And it really will help everybody, well, especially you in the long term. So, the big battle royale. Who wins, SEO versus social media? Should you focus on social media or SEO? What do you guys think? I heard a lot of social. Well, I think you need to do both. Social media is obviously easy. I'm taking the easy route out here, but obviously social media is possibly a little bit easier to do because you get Facebook, you know, you get Twitter, you know how that all works. Obviously, neither of these are a silver bullet, right? None of these are going to solve all your ills. It's not going to help you get more homes immediately. It will over time, but you know, it's certainly one of those things that are going to help you be a better marketer for yourself and of your realtor, your home sellers. Both of these take time, regardless of what you're doing. You know, think about what you're most comfortable with, right? If you are somebody who, you know, has quick fleeting thoughts and funny ideas, maybe Twitter's the right place for you, right? Because those are a couple different. How many characters are on Twitter? There's 140 in one tweet. I can't remember. Anyway, so it's a certain amount of characters, right? If you know you're really into you've got a Facebook app and you're really more into sharing pictures with people, Facebook might be better. If you've got really grandiose and big ideas, maybe a blog might be better for you, right? But it really depends. And regardless of how you do all these things, there needs to be some sort of SEO tie-in so that you rank better. So one of the products that we're talking about here today at the show that I just demoed upstairs is a product that helps to answer a lot of these questions. Okay, so here comes shameless plug time for Home Finder, but I'm calling it out. So you can actually combine SEO and social media in one product. Okay, so how many people here, by show of hands, have heard about single property websites? Okay, a lot of you already have. Well, that's good. Nothing new to the industry. However, I think we do it better and in a really interesting way than others do it. Single property websites, there's no question they can help you win and keep more listings. We've launched this product about 8 months ago, and we've heard great results from people that are starting these single property websites. It helps to keep the sellers happy, so the sellers see it's a website all about their property. And the address is actually www.123mainstreet.com. It's not www.marktepper.com/123main Street. It is literally the domain is the address of the home. So that's unique, and the sellers really like that because it's all about them, right? There's a really simple and elegant social media strategy involved with this, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but it's really super simple, and there's a great way to get your sellers involved on the social media side of it to help build your brand as well, okay? And then the biggest difference between us and all the other single property website companies is there's no data entry requirement, okay? Homefinder.com gets a direct feed from MLSLI, so the listings will go on homefinder.com. So in order to create a single property website, you don't have to go into some other third-party system, which all of our competitors do, and you have to enter in 2 bedrooms, or 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, beautiful home, here are the photos, upload all of that. That takes 20, 30 minutes. We already have the data, and it's super simple to create it. It literally takes 60 seconds. Okay? So the single property website is a dedicated marketing effort that's really specific to this client or a prospective client. So they get their own URL, as you can see here, 752foxdale.com. It's easy to remember, easy to use, and there's no competition because it's 100% focused on this site and on this property. The great thing about it is our single property websites actually rank on the first page of Google within 7 to 10 days. Okay? You heard me say it, our single property websites will rank on the first page of Google when you do a search for that address. Okay, that seems pretty logical, pretty normal, right? You do a search by 752 Foxdale and boom, up comes a single property website. But that's not insignificant, and I'll tell you why. Before we launched this product, we did some research on homefinder.com, and where was all of our traffic coming from? We get 3 million unique visitors a month. So where's it all coming from? So the organic part, 75% of our traffic is organic. Okay, which means we get the free stuff, which is great. 50% of that, so we're talking 1 point something million of our traffic comes in from people that did Google searches for addresses. Okay? As you mentioned earlier, ma'am, I don't know your name, but you mentioned don't most people do like Garden City and My Homes for Sale. That's the typical hypothesis, and that's what we thought as well, and a lot of people do. But what we found is that a lot of people are actually doing address searches on Google, and then they've been finding us. So that's why we think the single property website with a unique URL makes a lot of sense. My theory is this. Yes, sir?
How do they know to do that?
To do an address search on Google?
Yes.
Yeah, here's my theory. I could be totally crazy here, but I've talked to a bunch of realtors and asked what they think. Most people, when they start their search, they go to Home Finder, Zillow, Trulia, wherever they go, Coldwell Banker, they do a search, and it says, okay, I'm looking for homes in Comac, New York, 4 bedroom, 2 bath, this price, all that kind of stuff. They come up with a bunch of results, they whittle it down, they say I like 3 or I like 5 of these, right? Typically what they do, they either call a realtor or they actually go out to look at the property to see if is there an electrical pole here, is there a crack house next to it, right? And then they decide, okay, I like one of these 3, and they forget where they started, right? But they know the address. So they put that address into Google and say, let me see what kind of results come back, okay? That's my hypothesis, I don't know that for a fact, but because we're getting so much traffic from people doing address searches, it's kind of the only thing I can think of as to why they would do it. So if people are doing these address searches, wouldn't it be great if the first thing that they saw would be you and your single property website, right? So that's the SEO portion of this, right? Because our single property websites will rank on the first page of Google, and when somebody does an address search, you want to be top of mind and you want to be the person that's there, right? So obviously, this is, like, as I mentioned, not only does the seller get a URL, but it's a professional site, it's search engine optimized, and there's a lot of information on it that we get from the MLS, community information, school information. So if you look at the bottom there, I've highlighted this one in yellow. If you were to do a search right now on your phones for do 911 West Buena, it's actually an address in Chicago. If you do that, this single property website comes up number 1. Okay, number 1 is great. We want to be on the first page. We'd like to be top 5. But typically, our single property websites, are on the first page, so that's really good, and so that helps your brand. As I talked about, there's a really elegant way to get involved with social media through the single property websites. My belief has always been that the most interesting content in real estate is the listing, right? You can write about real estate, you can talk about real estate, but why are millions of people going to the Realtor.coms and the Home Finders and the Zillows of the world? Because they want to see homes, they want to see pictures, they want to see lots of that stuff, right? So why wouldn't you use that? Why wouldn't you market that property on social media, right? Where there's already lots of people that are your friends, your colleagues. Why wouldn't you use that as sort of the eye candy on Facebook? Yes?
Is there any charge for that?
No, there's no charge. There's a charge for the single property website. There's no charge to get it on
So
Facebook.
if you did a single property website, what would that cost?
Yeah, it costs you $12 per month per listing. And that's if you just buy one. If you buy multiples, it gets down to $6 per listing per month. So it's pretty inexpensive, if you ask me. Yes, sir?
Yeah, single property website, that competes with like listing book, right?
I'm sorry?
That competes with listing book?
It may, but I don't think they have unique domains or unique URLs. They may have, the ones that I know about primarily are like e-property sites, listing domains. But those guys don't always do, you have to pay extra for the domain.
Yes.
So it's typically like, I don't know what the URL is, like makemyhomefamous.com/123 Main Street, right? So it's not completely about that individual home, right? It's got this other unique URL. And the unique URLs rank better and have more SEO power than do those that don't have unique URLs. That is a fact. Okay? So from a social media standpoint, we think it's really powerful to share this on your Facebook page. Right? So it's really, if you just look on this image here, you can see it's a share on Facebook, and you literally click on it, it brings you to your Facebook page, you put in your username and password, and then bang, there's the picture of the home, and there's a link to the single property website. Okay? We think what's really cool is if you can get your sellers involved in the marketing of this, right? Who is more motivated to sell their home than the home seller, right? Nobody. So what we've done is actually, when you create a single property website, or we create it for you, we ask for your email address and the seller's email address, okay? In doing so, we will email you and the seller when the site goes live, and we'll email you and the seller when we rank on the first page of Google, or when that single property website ranks on the first page of Google. And every time we do that, we really push social media. Share this on Facebook, share this on Twitter, because again, as we talked about, the more that you share, the more that you like things through social media, the better the search engines will rank you. This guy in Chicago, this was a great story. He's a realtor. He bought a single property website, told his seller about it, the home seller. They put it on Facebook. As you can see, there was like 20 or 30 comments about it. Oh, I didn't know you're moving. It's terrific. Your home's so beautiful. This and that. We got 100. This single property website got 100 page views within a week's time just from this seller sharing on the Facebook page. Right? Which was really great because it wasn't, it wasn't just the realtor getting it out there and saying, "Hey, look at this home; it's beautiful." This is actually somebody who's selling their home. And again, what do people want to look at? They want to look at the eye candy, which is the listing. They want to look at the photos. They want to look at the interior of somebody's home. Right? It's more than just a pretty website. It really is an efficient SEO, efficient SEO strategy because it'll rank high, and your name is going to be associated with every single one of these single property websites. And really getting your sellers involved is critically important. Like we talked about, emailing the seller and having him share it on Facebook. So lastly, just the advantages of single property websites. It helps you build your brand one vote at a time via Facebook and Twitter and all those others. You can win more listings because you've actually got a really cool product you can show somebody. Actually, somebody who's a customer of ours came by and said, "I use this on every listing presentation. I go in and I tell them that I'm going to create a single property website just for your home." And she says it really helps. There's plenty of other great things that she does from a marketing perspective, but that it absolutely helps. And then it obviously enhance your SEO ranking. My point really was that it's super hard to compete against Realtor.com, Home Finder, Trulia, Zillow to rank for the key search terms, right? It's really hard. But can you rank, highly for an actual unique address? And if people are actually searching on those addresses, well, then wouldn't you want to be the person associated with that when people are actually searching on it, right? And then lastly, as part of our package, what we do is once you buy a single property website, all your listings get enhanced on homefinder.com. We used to sell that as a separate product, like Realtor.com does enhanced listings, we do the same thing. If you buy a single property website, we enhance all your listings on homefinder.com, and that's not insignificant because we drive phone call leads, email leads, clicks to your website, you name it, all that kind of stuff. Okay? So I've done a lot of talking, and you guys have done a lot of good listening, and I appreciate that. I know you've all asked some questions. Is there any other questions out there about SEO, social media, single property sites, anything? Yes, ma'am.
How do you reach through that? Is there a program, or is there anything to get rid of them, or do you accept them?
Yeah, I don't know if you all heard the question, but when you've got a website, you've got a comment section, and people leave comments. Can you get rid of them or can you delete them? The question is, are these public, right? Like, are the comments? Do you have a chance to look at the comments before they're published on the site? And that's a question I would have for your web developer. If there are systems where you can actually ask the web developer, say, people leave comments, but I have the ability to look at them before they go on my site.
Right. No, I understand that.
Okay.
But some of them are more like spam. They have absolutely no relevance.
Yeah.
They come like through the night.
Yeah.
All over.
Yeah, there's automated systems that do that, and talk to your web developer about how you could actually block those. We do that on Home Finder. We have a group of people that do this, but they just monitor our site all the time to make sure people aren't leaving obscene comments or bad comments. There's a way to do it. The web developer that you work with should be able to do that for you. Anything else? Yes, ma'am. Oh, I see you again. How are you?
I'm following you around.
You are. It's okay.
I actually want to make a comment about what she said, because if your website is with WordPress, a Kismet will, pull out the spam, and it doesn't go on your site until you all pay it. You moderate it if it's on WordPress. But it never hits your site.
Yeah, it shouldn't.
But if it doesn't.
Well, maybe you two can talk afterwards. Let's see if there's anybody else that has any questions. It's getting hot up here. Yes?
I'm using the property websites and the sellers really love it.
Great.
And the nice thing is, once the listing expires, you can just use the address of something else. And if people do search there, it drives it back to your listing, so we kind of go for a while.
Yeah, thank you very much. What's your name?
Lois.
Lois, thanks Lois. Yeah, that's one thing I didn't mention. So when say you have 5 single property websites you bought from us, and one of them sells, that's good news. Yay, congratulations, made some money. And it sells. So what we do is we say this property is no longer available because it doesn't come to us through the MLS anymore. But here are all the other properties by this realtor, and here's their picture. So you're still getting some of the SEO juice from that, because we bought the domain name for a year. So you still have it up there, and then you can go create, because you bought 5. To have 5 live listings, you can actually create another one. So yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the comment, Lois. Appreciate it. Anybody else? All right. Yabba dabba do time. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.